A very good morning to you all. Welcome to online classes of political science. I am Jaya Verma and today we will discuss about India and the Cold War and how many treaties India has done. We will discuss in this video. So let's start. As a leader of NAM, India's response to the ongoing Cold War was two-folded. Means as a leader or as a founder of NAM, India response to the ongoing Cold War which was going on between two superpowers was of two-fold. That is, at one level, it took particular care in staying away from the two alliances. The first one was it has to be away it has to stay away from the two alliances, and for this it took a particular care of itself. Then second, it raised its voice against the newly decolonized countries becoming part of these alliances. And secondly, it raised its voice, it objected that the newly independent countries, they were becoming part of these alliances, so India raised its voice against it. So India's policy was neither negative nor passive. And as Nehru reminded the world, non-alignment was not a policy of fleeing away. Nehru said that reminded to the world, or Nehru said to the world, that non-alignment was not a policy of fleeing away. So on the contrary, India was in favor of actively intervening in world affairs to soften Cold War rivalries. So India was in favor that, and it took actively intervene in the world affairs to soften the Cold War rivalries which was going on between these two superpowers. So India tried to reduce the differences between the alliances, and thereby it also prevented differences from a full-fledged war which was going to be happen. Then Indian diplomats and leaders were often used to communicate and mediate between Cold War rivals, such as in the Korean War in the early 1950s. So India diplomats and the leaders, they used to communicate, and they acted as a mediator between the Cold War rivals, and it was in Korean War in early 1950s they got a chance. Then Indian leaders talked and communicated and played a mediator role between the Cold War rivals. So it is important to remember that India chose to involve other members of the non-aligned groups to this mission. So it is important that to remember that India chose to involve other members of the non-aligned group, that they should follow this mission, that they should enter into this mission. So during the Cold War, India repeatedly tried to activate those regional and international organizations which were not a part of the alliances which were led by US and USSR. So Nehru reposed great faith in a genuine commonwealth of free and cooperating nations that would play a positive role in softening, if not ending, the Cold War. So here Nehru was of the opinion that the genuine commonwealth of free and cooperating nations, it played a positive role in, though it cannot put the Cold War to an end, but it can soften it. Then non-alignment was not, as some suggested, that a noble international cause which had little to do with India's real interest. Means they said that this is non-alignment is not a noble international cause which cannot do anything with the India's real interest. So a non-aligned posture also served India's interest very directly. So a non-aligned position which India has it can also serve India's interest very directly in two ways. First is non-alignment allowed India to take international decisions. And the first thing which India did, that non-alignment policy allowed India to take international decisions and stances that served its interest and its position, that it can serve its interest rather than interest of the superpowers and their allies. Then second, India was often able to balance one superpower against the other. So India has the ability, and India can often balance between the two superpowers. If India felt ignored or unduly pressurized by one superpower, it could tilt by another superpower. It could tilt to another superpower. So if India feels this, that India is being ignored, or it is pressurized by the superpowers, then if one superpower is pressurizing that to become the power of the alliance, then India would tilt to another superpower. So neither alliance system could take India for granted or bully it. So none of the alliance system, that whether Eastern Alliance or Western Alliance, they could take India for granted and they cannot bully it. So India's policy of non-alignment was criticized on a number of counts. Means, see here, but here we will state only two criticisms. First, India's non-alignment was said to be unprincipled. In the name of pursuing its national interest, India, it was said, often refused to take a firm stand on crucial international issues. Means this India's non-alignment, they said, critics said that it is unprincipled, and if we say that it was in the name of pursuing its national interest, India often refused to take firm stand on crucial international issues. Yet India was not taking any India was refusing to take any any decision on crucial international issues. Then second, it is suggested that India was inconsistent and took contradictory postures. So, having criticized others for joining alliances, India was criticizing others to join the alliances, and so India signed the Treaty of Friendship in August 1971 with the USSR for 20 years, and this was particularly regarded by outside observers as virtually joining the Soviet alliance system. The Indian government's view was that India needed a diplomatic. The Indian government view that India needed diplomatic and military support during the British crisis, and that in any case the treaty did not, and this treaty, friendship treaty, that will not stop him from having good relation with other countries, including US. So, non alignment as a strategy changed in the Cold War context. So, as we will see in chapter 2, with the disintegration of the USSR and the end of the Cold War in 1991. Non alignment, both as the international movement and as the core of India's foreign policy, lost some of the earlier relevance and effectiveness. So, however, non alignment contains some core values and enduring ideas. So, this non alignment policy has some core values and has some ideas. It was based on a recognition that decolonized states share a historical affiliation and can become a powerful force if they come together. See, all these aligned countries, if they come together, they will be very powerful. So it meant that the poor and often very small countries of the world need not become followers of any of the big powers. So it is said that it is not necessary that these smaller countries or poor countries have to follow one or the other superpowers. That they could pursue an independent foreign policy. They can make their own independent foreign policy. It was also based on a resolve to democratize the international system by thinking about an alternative world order to redress existing inequities So these core ideas, they remained relevant even after the Cold War came to an end. So now here on the next page we have arms control treaties. So whatever treaties they have signed, see here, first one is limited test ban treaty. What is limited test ban treaty here? They banned nuclear weapons test in the atmosphere. According to this treaty, nuclear weapons test was banned in the atmosphere, in outer space and underwater. And this was signed by US, UK and USSR in Moscow on 15th August 1963, and it came into force on 10th October 1963. Then next we have Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, that is allows only the nuclear weapon states to have nuclear weapons and stops others from acquiring them. For the purpose of the NPT, a nuclear weapon state is one which has manufactured and exploded a nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive device prior to one. Then on January 1967, to 1st January 1967, sorry. So there are 5 nuclear weapon states. They are US, USSR, later it was known as Russia. Then we have Britain, France and China. And they signed this treaty in Washington, London and Moscow on 1st July 1968, and it was implemented on 5th March 1970, and it was extended indefinitely in 1995. Then next we have Strategic Arms Limitation Talks 1. The first round of the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks began in November 1969. The Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev and the US President Richard Nixon signed the following in Moscow on 26th May 1972. These are the treaties which they have signed. First is Treaty on the Limitation of the Anti-Ballistic Missile System. And the second was Interim Agreement on the Limitation of Strategic Offensive Arms. And they came into force on 3rd October 1972. Then Strategic Arms Limitation Talks 2. This is the second treaty. The second round started in November 1972. And the US President Jimmy Carter and the Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev signed the treaty on the limitation of strategic offensive arms in Vienna on 18th June 1979. Then Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. That is, this treaty was signed by the USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev and the US President George Bush, that was senior George Bush, on the reduction and limitation of strategic offensive arms in Moscow on 31st July 1991. And the last but not the least, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty Start 2, that is treaty. This was signed by Russian President Boris Yeltsin and the US President George Bush, senior George Bush, on the reduction and limitation of strategic offensive arms, that was signed in Moscow on 3rd January 1993. So students, here comes the chapter to an end. I hope you must have understood the lecture. Just read the chapter, and if you have any query, please you can ask in the query section, or when I take the class webinar classes, you can ask in that. So students, thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.